Good early afternoon, presenting Earth Deserves More Than a Day. We are live from the historic Columbia City Theater and streaming across the globe on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your community radio station where your voice, your stories, and your power matters. Now, let's be real. Earth doesn't just need our love and affection on one day out of the year. Earth deserves more than a day because the communities most impacted by environmental degradation are often Black, brown, and low income, and are living with this reality 365 days a year. From the air we breathe, to the water we drink, to the green spaces we need, it's all connected. So all week long, we've been here at Columbia City Theater hosting live panels, youth nights. Oh, youth night was amazing last night. We have art installations, and we're going to wrap this up with a volunteer opportunity at Skyway Park on Saturday from 9 to noon. So whether you're listening from home or your car or your classroom or your corner store, stay tuned. We got a full schedule of panels for you today. And we'll be sharing stories, raising awareness, and most importantly, building action, because this is more than programming. This is a movement. This is for you, the people, and this is why Earth deserves more than a day. Our next panel coming up right now is partnering with immigrant and refugee communities for safer fishing panel. I think this is going to be really interesting. We're going to show you a video before we get started here. And the video is called Sharing Results for Safer Fishing. And then we'll come back and we'll introduce our panel and we'll have this discussion.
For refugee and immigrant community, fishing is very, very part of the culture. Back home, people go catch seafood, catch fish, wherever they can find to feed the family. So they come here, speak very limited English, then they assume that there is no concern about human health at all. This project is an opportunity to learn about the contamination in the local water where our community fish and consume.
It's given us a chance to learn how we can conduct our monitoring program to really serve all of the fishing communities in King County. That's a sole. Throw them in there. There's an English sole right there. There's another English. Throw them in here. Our contaminant monitoring and fish and shellfish first started about 10 years ago.
We wanted to help the state create fish advisories that guide people on what fish are safe or should not be eaten for health reasons. We often see toxics such as PCBs, mercury, forever chemicals or PFAS. They accumulate to higher levels in fish, and they have very serious effects on people's health.
I think we may have reached our quota.
We try to look at different species at different points in the food web. We look at Elliott Bay, our major lakes, Washington, Sammamish, and Union, Cedar River, and the Green River. But we could improve it if we got more data that was specific to the communities of King County.
We work with the fishing community to learn the local water where our people fishing a lot.
There were a number of other smaller lakes and different species that are popular with the fishers that we hadn't monitored before. Based on locations that we needed more data, we set up a pilot monitoring project conducted by the fishers from that community. They were basically our citizen scientists from those local communities.
This one is a perch, yellow perch. got the date that we caught it and where we caught it and what kind of fish we caught. This is for samples, and then they will come collect it later. We got ice cooler here.
We're going around to different water bodies such as Green Lake, Angle Lake, Des Moines, Lake Meridian. Fishing for me, it's enjoyable, stress relieving, but also, the fish are tasty. If these test results comes back as negative or positive, we at least know for the family what's good and bad.
It was a real opportunity to collect the data, but then give it back to them in a way that was useful to them, to help them make safer choices about fishes that they go for in King County.
Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
At a big community meeting, we explained our findings in real time, translating our information. And then we presented the flyer itself in 9 languages to serve all of the communities we had this project with.
Results did vary by location. It was important to them to know, if I go to this particular lake, these are the fish I should not eat, but these other species are okay.
Based on the results from this pilot, we started sampling one of the fish from 4 different locations along the Puget Sound shoreline, because it's a surprising finding. We better look into this a little bit more.
We are also planning to expand our coverage and include more water bodies, particularly in South King County, as we move forward.
We are so excited and so fortunate to really inform our community about contamination.
To educate the community, help them live a better life, and to be able to enjoy life just like everybody else. I think that's very important.
All right. Welcome back to Rainier Avenue Radio World and this panel discussion about partnering with immigrant and refugee communities for safer fishing. I want to introduce our panel before we go any further. And our panelists are Richard Jack, who is King County Water and Land Resources Division. Richard, how are you?
Doing great today, thank you.
All right. Also, Jennifer Lanksberry, King County Water and Land Resources Division.
Hello, happy to be here.
All right. Sophorn Sim, Refugee Federation and Service Center.
Hello, thank you for having me. Happy to be here today.
Thank you. And Rath Lay, who is the community fisher. Rath.
Glad to be here.
All right, thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we just saw the video, and I'm going to dive right into this. And so whoever feels like they can answer the question, answer the question. And if you feel like you have additional commentary, please fill in with additional commentary from your perspective. So the first question I want to ask, again, just watching this film here, what are some of the biggest barriers immigrant and refugee communities face when it comes to safe fishing practices in King County?
One of the largest barriers that everyone experiences, not just immigrants and refugees, is access to information. There's a rather limited collection of lakes that are part of our monitoring program. Our monitoring program has existed for about 10 years, but as you saw in the video, we don't have a totally comprehensive data set yet. And we are gradually building that out as time goes on to enhance people's understanding of where places are safe to fish and what species are the safest to eat.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to add on that. Thank you for the question. The barrier for the refugee and immigrant non-English speaking community is because of their limited English limited English and lack of awareness about the information, the contamination in the local water body, and there's not so much of information, especially like advisory around the contamination where they can fish and cannot, because like Mr.
It's Richard.
Sorry, like Richard just mentioned, because there's not that many studies show and help inform the community of the limited English community or marginalized communities. There's a few studies, and this is the only study that refugee community organization and the expert from the King County who has the great set of skill. They are the scientists, they are the biologists and toxicologists that understand about chemical and the contamination to do this study, so that when we learn about it, we can inform our community more about what healthy choice and what not healthy choice to consume.
Hey, thank you, Sophorn. And I see Jennifer, you chomping at the bit, grab your microphone, get in on this question.
Wanted to add a little bit to that. So Richard mentioned, a little bit about, limit of data, and some sort of data gaps in locations where we have information about contaminants in fish. And so our program at King County has been monitoring fish in various lakes and rivers for about 10 years now. And when we started the program, we didn't really know exactly where people were fishing or what they were catching. And so at the time, we turned to local experts or state experts to try to get that information. And we got some information, but we made some assumptions as well. And so some of those assumptions turned out to not be true. And so I think one of the limitations really has been a lack of information about underserved communities in King County about where they're fishing and what they're catching. And so part of this project was to fill a little bit of that data gap so that we could learn more about those communities, so our monitoring program could help serve them better in the future, so that we could serve more people with our data. So that was one of the great things about this project, I think.
Yeah, Rab, as a community fisherman, for you, what are some of the biggest barriers that you face when it comes to finding safe places to fish in King County and safe fishing practices?
Well, for me, people in my community are usually, unlike like some other.
And which community are we?
I'm from the Cambodian community,
okay.
More like Asian community. And normally when we fish, the goal is to catch and eat versus just to catch for sports and stuff like that. So having data is important to know, where a safe place to catch a fish for consumption versus just to catch and release. So it's important that, and I appreciate this program come about and then do some study and tell us this lake is okay to catch, or how many meal per month of a certain kind of fish or something like that.
And for you, how do language and cultural differences impact your access to safe fishing information?
Well, greatly, because some of the people, they don't read English, or maybe they don't understand English. And another thing is they don't have like a way of information. Say, for example, like if the data come and then if it doesn't reach in the community by way of networking or going right into the community centers and stuff like that, people usually don't get information off of like television or read off the internet or something like that. Convey to them either by word of mouth or by some sort of a community function or something like that.
And thank you, Rath. I think it's important that you're on this panel, but I'm opening that question up to the entire panel as well. How do language and cultural differences impact access to safe fishing information?
I would say that there's definitely, there can be a barrier there. We have The Washington State Department of Health has a website where you can go and look up, rivers or lakes or marine areas in Puget Sound or really the whole state, to see if there's any advisories for fish there, fish that you should limit your eating. And I think that there are perhaps some languages that represented there, but not all languages. So one of the goals of this project was to speak with the communities that we're serving, with the immigrant refugee community in South King County, to find out what kind of information they're looking for, and what's really the best way to communicate it back to them in a way that's useful and meaningful to them. And so when we worked on this project, we tried to be really mindful about the different language needs. And so, for instance, we had 2 parts to this project. There was a fisher survey where we got information from the fishers about where they're fishing, what they're catching, how they're eating their catch, who they're sharing it with. And we worked with the Refugee Federation Service Center to translate that survey into, I think, like 5 or 6, 7 different languages. And then they, conducted the survey within their communities, either in person or handed out the surveys in various languages. So we were able to bridge that gap a little bit with that information. And then at the end of the project, a second part of the project was going fishing, having the fishers from those communities go and collect those fish for us, so that we could analyze them. And in order to do that, we had a training session early on in the spring of 2024. And at that training session, we had about 5 or 6 different translators come and translate in real time the information that we were giving to the fishers about, where we were asking them to fish based on the results of the survey, and what fish to get and how to handle the fish, meant for contaminant analysis. So we really tried to bridge that gap in that survey. And then at the end as well, when we had this sort of project deliverable at the end, where we had this community meeting that you saw in the video, we had translators there as well. And then we produced a flyer that gave information about the fish from the survey and other fish that we've collected, that indicates where are the safer places to fish, which fish are safer to eat. And that as well, we had translated into 9 different languages and handed those out to the community. So we really are trying in this project to bridge some of those gaps and some of those barriers. And I think we were successful, and we hope to continue to be working in that way to help bridge some of those gaps, so that we can get that information that they need to them in a way that they can understand.
One of the things I do want to say is that we're broadcasting in English. And we do broadcasts on Rainier Avenue Radio in a number of different languages, including Tagalog, Vietnamese, Chinese, Fijian, Spanish. And so some of the folks who may need to hear this information may not be getting it. And so we'll try to figure out a solution to that. I think that's really important for this panel, that when we make it available to be aired again, that we come up with a solution to make sure that it's accessible to everyone who needs to hear it. Sophorn, Richard, do you want to answer that question as well?
Just one thing that I wanted to add was that one of the assumptions that we made, and a lot of other scientists have made for many, many years, is that we would focus on some of the worst contaminated places and some of the worst contaminated fish, which basically created advisories that were around what not to eat. And one of the things that we heard back from Sophorn and the rest of her team was about how they hear that message a lot, and what they don't hear is what their recommendations, which are safer to eat. And so we really tried to shift our mindset a little bit and address what are the safest choices and not necessarily what are the worst things to avoid.
Sophorn, did you want to comment on? You don't have to. I'm just asking. Are you good? Okay. I'll ask you this, though. The Refugee Federation Service Center, what is that organization and what does it do?
Thank you for the question. Refugee Federation Service Center is a private nonprofit organization that has established in early 1982. It was established by refugee and also is led by refugee. And Refugee Federation serves those refugee and immigrants from Southeast Asia in the early 1980 to late about 2000. But then refugee and immigrant have shifted from other part of the world like Eritrean, Ethiopian, Somali, Bosnian, Iraq. Refugee Federation continue to serve those refugee and immigrants from that part of the world by providing life skills such as short-term skill training, job preparations, and job placement, provide English language learner, and also continue to support them by connecting them with the resources and get familiar with the American system so that they can become self-sufficient and be a productive citizen. Besides, Refugee Federation has these small projects that I lead. We get this grant support from Department of Ecology through from the public participation grant to do environmental education. We raise awareness around pollution prevention with the communities. We help engage them in the activities and also encourage them to adopt best practice, especially best practice that could help to protect our shared environment that we all live in. We help connect them the dot about about pollution that's in the environment will end up there in their local water body and contaminate the fish where they like to eat. So by helping them to connect the dot about if they spill something in the land and then it will end up in local water and contaminate the fish and environment, sea creature, all those living creatures in a water body, because when it's getting through a certain storm water. And so that when we work with them and connecting them with the dot, and they tend to take that best practice and help clean up before it's too late and get into the storm drain. And with that, I also want to share that I also wear another hat in the community as well, that I lead a Cambodia Khmer Community Health Advocates under Fundaka Toxic to Eat, that is led by Public Health Sierra King County. The goal is to help protect the fishing community, especially pregnant women, breastfeeding mother, and young kids from eating residential contamination seafood from the Wamish, which is the Sophorn site. So the only healthy choice that they can consume is salmon. And we recommend them that, hey, if you want to catch and consume something else other than salmon, please go to like King County water body, such as Alki or Marine, Des Moines Marine or other lakes. So now it's connected with this, how this project is very important, because this project help learn and to do the study about the local water in the King County, which is other than the Wamish. So with this project and the partnership from King County, who are the experts, really help define what type of species are safer choice for them to collect, because from the Sophorn side, we say, hey, go to local body in the King County, but then we don't know what are healthy choice for them either. So with this project is very helpful and very, very important for them to learn. And with the expert from the King County help develop these useful tools for our community, fishing community, to understand, to use, like what are the healthy choice from like Lake Lake Meridian, for example, and what should they avoid, and like that. So it's very, very important that we partner with the community and also the expert from county to help develop these useful tools.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I guess this question would be for Richard and Jennifer as representatives of King County Water and Land Resources, along with the Refugee Federation Service Center. What are some of the other community organizations that you partner with on this project?
This particular project? For this particular project, the group was the Refugee Federation Service Center that we partnered with. We also worked with Public Health Seattle King County as another sort of county agency, was another partner in this project. So for this particular project, it was the Refugee Federation Service Center that we worked with. And I believe Public Health Seattle King County had worked with the Refugee Federation Service Center prior to this project in the years past on a Fisher's survey that was conducted for the Duwamish Superfund site, I think to get some of that information Sophorn was talking about for the Duwamish River, like what fish people are eating there. And so we saw this project as an opportunity to build on that relationship. Since we were sort of partners with Public Health Seattle King County, we learned about the Refugee Federation Service Center through them, and then approached them and worked with them to help gain funding for this particular project. And then once they got the funding, then we could partner with them and work together on this project to get this kind of information. So for this project, it was that group.
Okay, just so that everyone knows what we're talking about when you say this project.
Yes.
What is this project that we're talking about?
Right. So this project that we're talking about is a project working with the Refugee Federation Service Center based on some grant funding from the wastewater treatment division of King County to both help educate the refugee and immigrant community of South King County on pollution prevention and how pollution affects local waters. So that was one part of the project, and then the other part of the project was to was for our group, Toxic Contaminant Assessment Group within the county, to partner with the Refugee Federation Service Center to learn more about where they're fishing, so that we could conduct a study with them to have them help us collect fish from the local water bodies that we discovered that they were fishing that we hadn't been monitoring, so that we could learn about contaminants in those fish and then report the information back to the communities to help them learn where are the safer places for them to fish, what are the safer fishing choices for them, so that that information could be used by them. And then also it helped our monitoring program because it identified data gaps for us where we might want to consider moving some of our monitoring places that we weren't monitoring that are used by these communities, and maybe some fish that we hadn't been considering, or shellfish maybe, that we might want to add to our program, so that our program better serves all of the communities in King County. So that was this particular project. Yeah.
Okay. Richard, did you want to join in? We can move on. Unless you have something.
I only wanted to add that, we know that projects like this take time and resources, and we're committed to working with other community groups as well. It's not just like this isn't a one-time thing. This is an ongoing monitoring program that we have. It will be continuing into the future decades. And if there are other nonprofits or community groups that are interested in toxics in our local waters, in particular in our local fish, they're welcome to reach out to us. And we're committed to helping other groups get funding and be able to support their participation in our decision-making around safer fish in King County waters.
All right, time is flying by. I knew this was going to be an interesting conversation, and I don't want to limit you to talking in sound bites. I like the fact that you're giving us full explanations. We're going to have to take a commercial break, though, right here, and we'll be back in a couple minutes, and I'll ask some more questions, and you'll give me some more answers. How does that sound? All right, we'll take a break, and again, this Partnering with Immigrant and Refugee Communities for Safer Fishing panel. We'll be right back after this.
No, you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio. .world.
Sing with us as we fill the historic Columbia City Theater with our voices. Join Crowdsource Choir on May 23rd for a soulful, participatory night of singing. Come raise the collective vibration with us at the Columbia City Theater. Tickets at crowdsourcechoir.com.
One, two, get down. What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Mara, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
My name is BK, International Talent Scout. I'm bringing a brand new show to you called BK Presents. 50 minutes, non-stop, your favorite in gospel music studio section. Going deep into interviews with your favorite artists, producers, and their engineers. You and your concert previews and concert reviews. Get it all on bkpresent.com.
Celebrate Earth Day with Rainier Avenue Radio Tuesday, April 22nd.
Wait. Earth deserves more than that.
Seattle and surrounding communities, get ready because it's about to go down for Earth. Tune into the morning
Live on Rainier Avenue Radio.
10 a.m. to 10:30, April 21st through the 20th. You know what? Lavera's going to be here with us. So teaming up with King County Parks to let you know how climate and environmental justice impact you.
Earth deserves more than a day.
Join us live for free at the historic Columbia City Theater all week long, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, we're going to have panel discussion, workshop, interviews. There'll be an Art of Soul gallery where Seattle-based artists will share their interpretation of climate and environmental justice. Thursday night is Youth Night.
Next gen stepping
There's
up.
an Earth Week gift shop with sustainable swag you can feel good about. Don't sleep on the panel, workshop, and all the action. Visit Rainier Avenue Radio.world right now for the full scoop. Let's show the Earth some real love all week long, celebrating Earth Week in partnership with King County Parks.
Ladies and gentlemen. Speak Up Seattle. We are Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares.
Don't forget. More than the babies. Partner fishing like SR, Richard Jack, King County Water and Land Resources Division, Jennifer Lanksberry, King County Water and Land Division, Sophorn Sim, Refugee Federation and Service Center, and Rathley, a community fisher. Really quickly, why did King County feel like it was important to partner with the community organization for this project, which we just defined?
Well, I think, like I said earlier in the interview, when we first started our long-term tissue monitoring program for contaminants, we made some assumptions about where people were fishing and what fish they were catching, because we didn't have a lot of good information at the time, a lot of good survey information. And so I think one of the things that's really important for an organization like ours that serves the communities of King County is that it's really important to engage with those communities to learn more about their needs so that we can better serve them with the kind of information that they can use. So, for myself, I think it's important for projects like this just to learn more information about those communities so that the data that we provide is useful to all of the people of King County, and including the communities that have traditionally been underserved, especially the communities that are, a little bit more environmentally challenged. And so for me, I think that's one of the important reasons to really engage, and it's really critical to do that. It's not really optional in projects like this to reach out to those communities, and I think it helps build trust. And in this particular project, we work together to set up the goals of the project, to do the actual fishing itself, which, through the grant money, the fishers were, compensated for their time for fishing. So I think, projects like this help build trust, and there's a sense of reciprocity between the local scientists and the communities that they're serving. And I think that these communities are really, eager to learn more about their environment and participate in the research if we work together. So.
Rath, for you, what was it like to fish for research purposes?
Well, it was different than fishing for pleasure. First, the money was good.
Okay.
No. When I was invited to do the fishing for this project, I thought that, this, since I like fishing anyway, and then, here's an opportunity to fish for a reason, for a purpose. And the difference was that how we handle the fish after we caught the fish, we have to handle it in a particular way, such as we have to wear gloves so that we prevent contamination from us into the fish when they do this fish sample. And then we have to label it, where we caught the fish, and the type of fish that we caught. So it's different than just regular fishing. And also there was a kind of some sort of pressure that, you have to catch this fish because if you don't catch the fish, there will be no sample. So we, our team worked really hard. We tried the different lakes that was assigned to us to make sure that we caught that particular species and from that particular place, so that the sample, they have a sample of that particular fish from that lake.
Why did you want to be part of this project? What made you say, okay, I'll get down with y'all?
Because I know that, whatever that is going to come out, it will be important information to relay back to the community. And so that people, can say that, hey, don't fish from this lake, or if you fish it, don't eat too much of the fish from this lake. But, if you fish from other lake, it might be safer or less contaminated food in your intake. So I know the information will be important to the community that fish, like I said, for food. Usually we fish for food.
So this is for the entire panel. What were some of the new or surprising trends you learned from the collected data?
Well, one of the things that we learned, there was a persistent assumption amongst us and others that marine perch in particular, which are pretty low on the food chain and they're pretty small, would be relatively safe to eat. And that turned out to be incorrect. And so we have new recommendations on how much marine perch to eat. They turn out to be a lot fattier and they accumulate a lot more contaminants because of the relatively high fatty content of those fish. So that was a surprising outcome that really changed our recommendations for the region.
I want to add something also. As I mentioned before, we learned from the survey of the fishers themselves that a large proportion of these communities are eating the whole fish that they catch rather than the fillets, which traditionally, when we make fish consumption advisories or recommendations, it's usually based on the fillets of the fish, the contaminants in the fillets rather than the whole fish. So learning from the survey that a large, 2/3 of the respondents are consuming the whole fish really helped us when we were thinking about the at the end of the project are flyers that we put out in multiple languages about, where are the safer places to fish and which are the safer fish from those locations. We included on the flyers a recommendation to eat mostly the fillets of the fish and try to discard the carcass, like the skin and the organs and the head, because that helps you reduce your overall contaminant exposure. Same thing really for crabs as well. We had data from our long-term monitoring program that the meat of crabs tends to be have less contaminants in it than they call it the crab butter, or the sort of the innards of the crab from the main center of the body. And so we put on the flyer on the other side where we talk about marine fishing and shell fishing, that it's better to avoid eating the crab butter, the innards of the crab, and just eat the meat. And that's something that I think culturally for a lot of these communities, eating the crab butter is kind of a delicacy. And so we were able to convey to them that if they want to reduce their contaminant exposure, avoiding that part of the crab would be a good idea. And so that was, not a surprising finding for us, but one we felt we needed to really try to communicate well in the end.
Did you want to respond?
Yeah, I want to say a little bit more. Adding to that is that, like Jennifer said, to me, for my culture, the best part is the fatty of the fish, the bellies and stuff. And the crab is, the crab butter. And what's surprising me with this project was that, I find out that it's recommended 1 meal of perch from Lake Meridian, but then you can do 12 from Lake Desire. So there's a stark difference between, the two lakes that's a few miles away. So that was really surprising.
I also would like to add a little bit more on top of that, because these data, the findings really help navigate or educate our community about the misperception about, hey, the whole fish, if it's contaminated, it's going to contaminate the whole thing. But then with the experts, because the scientists, the toxicologists know when they do the sampling, they know which part of the chemical it stays. So that really helped us to inform community about how they should lay and which would they should avoid. Because for me, before I be in a project or working with other project, understand about all the information that the experts share, I would assume that, once the fish is contaminated, it should be the whole thing, not even though you fillet. But this is because it's based on science that a certain place only, part only that is contaminated. So we help convey that information to our marginalized communities too.
The time has really flown by. I do want to get another question in, though, and then I'm going to give you all an opportunity for brief final words. I have found over the course of this week, with every panel discussion and with every workshop, it's damn near impossible to take the politics out of climate justice and environmental justice. I've also found that it's damn near impossible to take race, culture, ethnicity, class out of environmental justice and climate justice. And when you think about the fact that the countries with the smallest footprint suffer the largest degradation due to environmental justice and climate justice, you may not be prepared to answer this question, but I'm going to ask because of the work that you're doing. What policy changes would better protect immigrant and refugee communities who fish for food security? Anybody? Any policy changes that you can think of that would be better for the immigrant community who fish for food security?
Well, right now, the biggest limitation if you're attempting to fish for food security is not actually the toxic contaminants in the first place. It's the limited number and availability of fish. We have so many fewer salmon than we did historically, and that really impacts tribal communities and immigrant communities alike, that the resource just isn't there anymore. to the extent that it was 50 or 100 or 120 years ago. So the restoration of those populations so that there actually is enough fish to be able to successfully fish and augment, your diet on a consistent basis, and get more fish and more energy than you spend actually trying to catch one, is really, I think, the an overarching issue that crosses all the contaminant related problems that we're faced with. So the restoration of those fish populations is super important.
So Sophorn and Rath, I'd like to hear your perspective on this as well. Again, populations, immigrant refugee that fish for food security.
I'm not sure about policy changes, but I feel that we should have more programs like this, where we have the data, and then there would be actually people go into the different communities, especially communities with a language barrier, and to share or provide that information.
That's a policy change. Sophorn, did you want to? And you don't have to. I'm not forcing you. I'm just wondering what your feedback is on this. What are the changes that would better protect immigrant and refugee communities who fish for food security?
For me, because I also involved in other projects that project help us to connect to the marginalized community who has language barriers, to work with them in person, like connect with them, because some communities who cannot understand English, even though we have the information translated, they doesn't mean that they can read and write. So it's very important to involve the affected community, to work with them, to engage with them more. And because environmental not only affecting just one community, but affecting everybody, but it hurts more to those non-English speaking who not understanding information. For example, in the Sophorn side that EPA did the study, they learned that majority of people who consume residential seafood are the non-English speaking refugee and immigrant community, because they don't know the information. So the Fund the Cat Toxic to Eat project helps to develop a program where we can reach out to those non-English speaking, and we conduct workshops and we share information around outreach and through tablings and through engaging them in workshops.
Well, we're going to have on our next panel, we're going to have elected officials here. And so we'll maybe talk about some potential policy changes on fishing. I told you this was going to be a good discussion and it was going to go by really quickly. But I do want to give everybody an opportunity here for final words, and I'm going to have to keep you under a minute to do that. First of all, thank you all for being here and having this important conversation, which again, some folks may not be aware of how environmental justice impacts certain members of our community. And so I think it was great to get this information out. Richard, I'm going to start with you. Again, Richard Jack, King County Water and Land Resources Division, thanks for being here. I want to give you an opportunity for final words. Keep it less than a minute. Say whatever you want to say, because I've been firing questions at y'all. And there may be something that you want to get out to the community, the public. Now you got about 40 seconds to do it.
We would appreciate and be overjoyed to continue to work with additional community groups out there. And if you feel that you have an interest in toxics in water or fish, reach out to us at talk6@kingcounty.gov is an email address you can reach us at. And we would be thrilled to work with you and address your concerns to the best of our ability.
And also Jennifer Lanksberry, King County Water and Land Resources Division. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to come here and be part of this conversation. Same deal. Give you about 50 seconds to say whatever you want to say without the pressure of me firing a question at you. To our audience listening, again, not only in Seattle, but around the state, we know that people are also listening around the country and around the world as well, because this goes from Skyway to Senegal, to Duwamish to the Dominican Republic. And so this resource for information for people. But obviously, Rainier Avenue Radio, we get down, we're concerned about South Seattle.
Of course. And so I just want to, thanks for having us on. And this was a great opportunity to work with the local communities. But I do want to say that, for anybody who's going fishing out there, the Washington State Department of Health has a website that has advisories for fish and all, fishing locations around the state. It's not totally complete, and we're trying to add more data with projects like these. But it's important if you're concerned, if you're going fishing somewhere, to check the advisory for the location they're going to see, which fish are safer to eat and which fish you should avoid in those water bodies. So it's sort of a human health perspective. We need more information, and we're trying to get it, but there is some information there, and most states have, websites like that you can go to. So I would encourage anybody to do that, because fish are healthy to eat, but it's good to know, the information about the fish in your local environment.
All right, thank you. And Sophorn Sims, Refugee Federation and Service Center. Sophorn, again, about 40, 50 seconds for final words that you'd like to share with our listening audience right now.
Thank you. I would like to say that when there is a project like this, please include, the non-marginalized community. To include the non-English speaking and refugee and immigrant community to be part of the decision making, so that the project can be very meaningful, and create some more program so that we can reach out for more refugee and immigrant in other part of the country, other part of the communities.
And Raph, last but definitely not least, a community fisherman. Anything that you would like to share with our audience that's listening? And if you want to, you can share it in whatever language that you choose to.
I would like to build on Jennifer's recommendation there to check the different places where it's safe to fish and stuff like that. But more importantly, if you're there already and you didn't get to check, make sure you hit the warning sign or the plaques that are putting on at those sites. Because I know so many people that just go there and just start casting, and they don't read the warning signs. And those signs are there for a purpose to help you to stay healthy. And secondly, fish from different bodies of water. Don't fish in just one spot. And this is the way that you can reduce or minimize the risk of contamination, because maybe one body of water has less contamination than another body of water. So make sure you fish from different sites.
All right, thank you all for joining us. Thank everyone for listening, and those who were watching on our social media as well. Coming up next, we'll have a conversation with elected officials, and we'll be talking about what their perception of environmental justice is. So that's it, and we'll be back in maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, and we'll have that discussion. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to our panelists as well.